Well, welcome back to a new video. Today we've come out to Bathurst, a town about 3 hours away from Sydney by normal car, or 4 hours if you drive a Triumph, like I have. So we've crossed the Blue Mountains from Sydney yesterday. We only had a minor problem where the car got a bit hot going up the hill, but we're here and we're going to look at some of the events that are planned for the weekend. The event is, of course, the 100th anniversary of Triumph cars, held in Australia by the Triumph Sports Owners Association. We've arrived and today is Saturday, so it's the morning car show, and we'll have a look at some of the fabulous vehicles on display before tomorrow when there's a circuit of the famous Mount Panorama racing track here in Bathurst. So what are we waiting for? Let's go and have a look at them now. So let's start off over here with the Triumph Super 7s. We're very lucky here to have 3 today, and of course they are in beautiful restored condition. The Super 7 was designed as a sort of competitor to the Austin 7, but it was rather better equipped in some ways, and it ran from 1927 to 34, I believe. This one, oh look, it's equipped with 4-wheel brakes, just to advertise that, and the underside is very nice and clean. You can see the drums on the rear, and I believe they had an 800cc engine or thereabouts. Look, that one has a rather interesting number plate of Brum, which is amusing. And here we've got a fishtail exhaust on this blue one, which is a sort of more boat-tailed style one. And oh look, there's a bit of information on the front. He's got indicators on the front of his springs, which is nice. Oh my goodness, it had a worm drive differential. That is old-fashioned. That's amazing. And this one here is very nice in this two-tone red and sort of grey colour. Note how it's got both a motor meter and the original nickel-plated radiator rather than chrome-plated. The interior is lovely too. This one's nice, actually quite nice and original. Moving on now to some rather more modern machinery, we have the Dolomite Sprints. This first one appears to have a V8 in it, which is a bit exciting and unexpected because they should of course have the 16-valve slant 4. All in the mimosa yellow, which was the only colour, or one of very few, in which you could get a Dolomite Sprint in Australia. What's going on here? Oh, we're adjusting the carburettor. I think the mixture is slightly off. So now we move on to the Mark 1 2500 and PI lineup. This one here has been very heavily modified. You can see the boot is really enormous and there's no carpet in there. And if we look at the front, it has a rather exciting straight 6 with twin Weber carburettors on it. So it's more than just a PI in that sense. The interior is very nice as well. He's got towels on the seat, I assume because of the heat here today. Not too bad at the moment, but I think it'll get hotter later. This one here has, again, a rather unusual setup, but it does have an original mechanical Triumph fuel injection system, or Lucas fuel injection system, I should say. He's got this interesting air inlet, though, at the front. And the boot, yes, that's more original too, rather than the other one. I quite like the original ones, personally. This one is, again, modified. It's in this rather striking metallic blue colour. And he's got the Mini-Lite style wheels and an enormous Rover V8 in it. That was unexpected. It's got a large American carburettor. I would assume that's a Holly or an Edelbrock under that big chrome pancake air cleaner, but that one does look very smart indeed. Look at that. Over here we've got a lineup of TRs. This lovely green TR3 is looking very nice. You've got more modern seats in it, but the tartan on them matches very nicely. If we look under the bonnet, we can see the 2-litre inline-4 engine with twin SU carburetors. There's this lovely cherry red TR2 over here, and oh, look at that interior, that's beautiful. It even seems to have been racing at some point, judging by the photo on the inside. Just a little digression here, we'll look at this nice Mark II 2.5 litre, which has been done up as a racing model. You can see it's got a full roll cage, proper racing seats, and oh, and a nice toolkit in the boot for hopefully when they don't break down. We can go back to the TRs now and look again at the TR3s, which of course you can tell from the TR2s because they have a sort of mesh grille, and the TR3As of course have the wider frog-like grille on the front. Look at this cream one over here. The cream with the red interior is just beautiful. It's clearly been very nicely redone. Even the dashboard is in the same material. And again, another one next to it, this time with tonneau cover. And ooh, oh wow, look at that. I love the steering wheel on this one. That steering wheel is beautiful. Wood rim with the wound cord. I think I'll just go around the other side, because if we look inside you can see he's got it all set up for time trials. It's even got the stopwatches on the inside. We've got a matching pair of TR3As here, and they look very smart. One has wire wheels and the other its original hubcaps. Back to the 2.5 litres over here. This is the more common version with the twin Stromberg carburetors. And at the back we can see that it's got an overdrive on the gearbox. Looking over here to this estate, this is very nice to see an estate because they were never actually sold in Australia. So all of them must have been imported from the UK at some point or other. This one, obvious from the exhaust pipes, is fitted with an enormous 3.9 litre Rover V8, and you can tell it's a 3.9 because he's even made a little badge for it on the front to show it's now a 3900 rather than 2500. This here is an Australian assembled car. You can tell from the colour of it, it's actually a Dulux Toyota colour. If you're interested, I don't know the name, but you can tell them apart slightly. It's also nice, it's in relatively original condition apart from the wheels. And here we've got another set of 2500s. That one is an injection and this one is the twin carb. Again, another twin carb here in white, and you can see the pantograph wiper set up on that before we again inspect a Mark I estate. And this is a really nice one, especially being an injection model. And look at the interior, that's beautiful. That must have been redone, surely. I really like the interior on the Mark Is. They just seem to have a much more 60s space age style. And the rear quarter light, such a good idea. Imagine the ventilation on that. So it does have 2.5 PI badges on it. I don't know if it's an original 2.5 PI or if it's been converted later. Now this estate here is a particularly interesting one. It's a Stag estate, which of course wasn't a real production model, but has been made from an estate using a Stag engine and even, I believe, a custom electronic fuel injection system, probably off a Holden or a Ford. That's normally how these work. I should have asked the owner beforehand, but you can see it's absolutely gorgeous. Just a really nice car. I'll show you quickly the Stags now. We've got Stags in various different states of modification. That one has black bumpers, which I'm not sure about, but these ones are more original. This is the traditional sort of green colour with the tan interior. Nice nice wooden dashboard, and even the steering wheel is placed. This is an unusual one. If you watched my video from Queanbeyan a couple of years ago, you'll remember this car. It's the Triumph Scorpion. It's a 1934 Triumph, which has been modified and sort of almost rebodied over the years, including a load of roadster parts. So it's got the engine, which is actually out of a Renown, and it's absolutely hilarious. And the owner drives it all the time. You can see there how the roadster grille has got a sort of mounting, adjusting bit to make it fit with the original bonnet. It's slightly grubby at the moment, but it's nonetheless a very nicely used condition and showing definite patination. Very nice GT6 coming in behind. I'll look forward to seeing that in a minute. Looking at this Mayflower, it is the only Mayflower here. Mayflowers are very, very unusual to see in this country. They did sell reasonably well, but they were just rather unpopular afterwards and not seen as particularly desirable, so they had a rather high attrition rate. This one seems to have a very sporty stag steering wheel, but if it has the original side valve engine, I don't think it will be able to keep up. I rather like the little light on the side of the wing there. It's almost like a police car from the 1950s. I really like the design of the Mayflower. It was really quite futuristic with the sort of razor edge styling, which was unusual at the time. We've again got a Herald here. This is a proper Herald rather than a 1250, and it's got the black dials on the interior. I love the chrome handle on the bonnet, as well as the large overriders. It's almost in that traditional red and white colour scheme, which is the Triumph colour of signal red. Moving on to the TR4s and TR4As. Got some nice ones here. Look, you can see the rebuild on this one. This one's clearly been substantially restored. And it's even got a nice hard top. It's got the extra sticky vinyl interior for the Australian heat. And ooh, this one's very sporty with the black wheels. I quite like the way it looks though. And ooh, the interior is beautiful. It's got a Triumph Tune engine in it, but it's got mainly the original twin SUs on it. Over here on the podium area, they've tried to assemble one car from each period of Triumph's history. We've got this lovely Mark I Spitfire, as well as this early GT6. I love the styling of the GT6. They are very low though. You don't quite appreciate how small and low they are until you get up close. This TR7 we've seen before. It was originally a left-hand drive car and lived on Noumea of all places. GT6 has some very nice Cosmos style wheels, and it's the Mark II version, as I have just seen from the badge. Here we have another Triumph 1250. Very unusual to see a 1250. There are about 10 left on the road, including mine, and this one belongs to Graham. He's just fitted these twin HS2s to his, which I'm planning to do to mine. He's got the earlier type of manifold, and he actually modified his single carb exhaust manifold so he could mount the twin carbs to it. Looking at the interior, he's got this interesting retrim. I don't think that's an original pattern for the seats or the door cards, but it's nonetheless a very nice one. And he has of course fitted an overdrive gearbox to his, which is another thing I mean to do to mine. This is the fabulous TR4A, which is just in impeccable condition. The engine on it always never fails to amaze me with its shininess. And here, I don't think I've seen this one before. It's a red TR6, but it's in this really nice metallic red colour, which is unusual. You don't see many like that. rather patriotic seat protectors on it today. This is the same TR2 which we saw in immaculate condition, just been restored at the display day at the end of last year. And you can tell, of course, from the engine by the longer head studs that it is a factory tuned model. So we move on now to the TR4s. This one is very nice in red with its little Surrey top open. That's with the wraparound rear window and separate roof panel. I do like that, a very stylish design. That's the TR4A with independent rear suspension. This is the Canadian TR250 we've seen before, and next to it is of course the TR5PI, one of the most desirable TRs of the Triumph range. You can see it's TR6 injection engine, and I always think the radiators on those look too small for the size of engine. Got a couple here. That blue one's very nice. We've actually seen it before. We saw it again at Queanbeyan. Now this here is a very unusual car. It's a TR4 Dove, which means it has this interesting roof. I believe it's the only one in the country, and it currently lives in Victoria. Of course, the Triumph Dove was created by the Dove dealership in London, and the bodies were effectively rebuilt in this GT form as a sort of coupe by Harrington Motor Bodyworks. They've built around 43 from memory, and of course this one is the only one in the country. Moving on, we now have this award-winning TR8, which has a large and very shiny carburettor on the top. You can see it's various different awards, and its beautiful immaculate interior with lovely 70s brown tartan. Behind we have the only Triumph Vitesse here today. The Triumph Vitesse was never actually sold in Australia. They had the 1250 which didn't do so well, so they decided against selling them properly. This one seems to be in reasonable condition. It's showing a few signs of patination at its age, but you can tell it's the Mark II from the wider slats on the front grille, as well as the simplified dashboard and the sort of pressed metal boot plinth. Or the trim, rather, I should say. Under the bonnet, you can see, of course, it has the Triumph Straight 6. This one is a 2-litre with the twin SUs. Now, the Mark IIs also had Rotaflex rear suspension, so it had the rubber donuts, as used in later GT6s as well. If we look over here, we've got a selection of TR6s. Great looking cars, of course. Unlike most of the TR range, they were designed by Gear rather than Michelotti, who did most of the Triumphs in general, in fact. This one over here has its original injection system and a very many bladed fan to try and keep it cool in the Australian heat, I suppose. This one's actually nice and original. It's certainly an original colour, if not its original paint. And over here we have one which has been rather reworked with a Motec electronic fuel injection system. That one must go very nicely, I would assume. This one we've also seen before. It's got this almost twin plenum Rover V8 on the top. Over here we have the Hardy Racing Dolomite Sprint. Very period, especially with all the original branding on it. Twin Webers, naturally, and I believe it does still get around a bit, although these days it goes everywhere on its own personal trailer. Some more TR6s here. That one also goes racing, as I can tell from the numbers. They have a good turnout of TR6s at most Triumph events, them being the Probably one of the most common cars in the club. Second perhaps to Stags. We've got TR7s and another TR8 over here. This nice red one looking very original. And this dark green one looking not particularly original at all. Again, it's got a Rover V8 rather than a Triumph engine and a rather interesting spoiler on the back. Here we've actually got another Triumph 1250, so very unusual to see three here, that being a large proportion of the numbers on the road. This one is the Coupe. Something of note is that on the 1250s they used the earlier type of coupe roof with the fins at the back. You can see the engine is also very original. This one has the single carburettor layout. So it just has the Solex downdraft carburettor. Interestingly, the rear tub of the coupe was slightly different from that of the saloon and the convertible because it had a longer rear tub and the roof mounts to it at an earlier point. We've got this nice Spitfire here, which often goes racing and has been clocked at 170 kph on the racing straight. Next to it is of course my 1250. I've provided a bit of information about it, but I intend to do a full video about it and the differences between it and Vitessas in a future video. So look forward to that, but I will unlock the door and show you the interior anyway. As you can see, I've recently fitted a new steering wheel on which I have an upcoming video. And mine does not have a particularly original interior or exterior. It was white originally with a green roof, as most of them were. In fact, it was the same colour of white as this Spitfire Mark IV. Nice original. It has overdrive, as you see. So I assume on a Mark IV Spitfire that would be the J-type overdrive, and it would have a single rail gearbox with synchromesh on all gears. Now this is this lovely GT6. I was very much looking forward to admiring earlier. It's in beautiful condition. I really like the colour. I don't know what colour is from. It's not a Triumph colour, certainly. But the interior has been done up very nicely. It's got a walnut dashboard. And it just looks so smart. Even the wheels are not original, but they just set it off so well. Great looking car. Next to it we have more Stags, variously. This is a more original one with the twin Strombergs again. You can tell the Mark I Stags from the Mark IIs because the Mark IIs have this trim finishing plate along the bottom of the sill, of course under which they rust. There's a nice original dealer sticker there, showing it's a local New South Wales car. And then we have a few more. So that's as far as I'm going to cover the car show, but you will join me again probably this evening when we're going to be going out to Mount Panorama. I'm going to have a go around the racing circuit and of course obeying the speed limit because it is a public road. So that'll be interesting. And then in the morning you'll join me again where we'll all be going around Mount Panorama in a nice convoy. So that should be quite spectacular. And so, with our lap completed and the 36-degree weather prediction in our minds, we made our way home from what had been an extraordinary weekend. I'd like to say thank you to the organisers for making it so special, and all that remains is for me to say thank you for watching and ta-ta for now.